Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Discover New Music podcast from us at Full Pelt Music. Shortly, I'll be chatting with Bitter Kisses, who we recently featured over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify with their single Pray. But before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. Well, welcome Bitter Kisses to the Discover New Music podcast. Absolutely delighted to have you on. Joined today by Gemma, Thomas, Josh and Scarlett. Thank you for giving me your time. And how are you on this quite sunny Sunday afternoon?
Good, because it's sunny.
Yeah. It's always a bonus when the sun is out, the nights are drawing out, and hopefully summer's on its way, which is a great time for music. Obviously a lot going on with the band at the moment. You've just put out your debut single, Pray, and we'll be talking to you about that in just a moment. But we always start off the podcast with the same portion. It's called the origin story, because of course it's the Discover New Music podcast. It's for people to discover new music, so hopefully there'll be some people checking this out that might not be familiar with the band. So for those people, how did you all come together under the name Bitter Kisses? What is your origin story?
We met at a gig quite a few years ago with our sort of old bands, which was quite interesting actually, and then when they kind of fizzled out, we were obviously looking for a new project. And all just kind of came together, had a bit of a jam sesh, and then, as Josh would put it, are not sick of each other yet. So here we are.
Yeah, and that is definitely always important. Not being sick of each other yet. Though I did notice you dropped that in there very succinctly. But yeah. So obviously, you've obviously been in other projects. You've come together. It's a story that we hear, quite often, and it's great that you found yourselves under the guise of Bitter Kisses as you have, because we've really enjoyed Pray, your debut single that's just come out. And listeners, obviously, I implore you to check it out. You can do so on our playlist, or of course on any of the usual streaming platforms. There's also a nice video for it, which we will touch on in just a moment. But before then, what is the story of Pray? How did the song come together? What's it about, and how did it form for you?
I'd say Tom. That's one for you.
Well, the writing of it, the process was kind of like trying to write a song which played with the two different meanings of the word pray when you spell it with an E or spell it with an A, and sort of trying to write a song where you could kind of choose which word you're putting in different places and see what the meaning means to you. So yeah, we trying to write that from that standpoint. But yeah, that was how it all began, I guess. Josh got a lovely little soundbite he always likes saying.
I do like saying sound. I think usually when people ask us, what Pray is, I tend to just tell them that it's a song inspired by a fever dream in which Lady Gaga and the Queens of the Stone Age collaborated to make a new Earth, Wind and Fire song.
Well rehearsed at that.
Yeah. And I did read that in the press release, and it certainly piqued my interest enough to check out the song, because of course we don't feature any old song on the playlist. I have obviously the Full Pelt inbox is loaded with new music getting chucked at me on a daily basis, that piqued my interest enough to hit play, and then obviously loved what I heard, which obviously it warranted it going on the playlist, and of course inviting you onto the podcast for a chat about it. And equally I was really intrigued when you obviously spoke about the sort of dichotomy of pray and pray, the two different meanings, and again when I read that piqued my interest as well, and I was like because obviously it's an interesting dichotomy between them two lyrics, and obviously enough for you to write a song about.
Doing a song in which you can choose your own adventure.
Yeah, definitely. And as I say, the video for Prey, I really wanted to speak about as well, because music videos are just a lost art these days. I'm probably a decade or so older than you guys, unfortunately. So I grew up. Obviously with MTV still playing music, and you used to get music video premieres late at night on like Channel 4 and all this kind of stuff. Music videos are something that I love, but they've kind of died out. Of course, we have got YouTube these days, and obviously a lot of bands I am finding are taking a bit more of an interest in them once again, such as yourselves. So listeners, the video for Prey, you can find it on YouTube, and obviously we'll have the links in the bio for this episode for you to check it out. There's basically an actual story that plays out through the video. It's not just a performance, in front of like a bland background or whatever it is, or just some live footage. It's an actual music video. So how did the concept for that come together?
I personally tend to get bored quite easily with a lot of band music videos that, like you say, are sort of performance based. Not always. There are some really, really cool ones out there, but I think for me, knowing my own attention span, I kind of like to make sure that people have a sort of hook or an incentive to stay from beginning to end. And I think stories are just the best way to do that. And like I said, I have a pretty naff attention span. So when we were in the car on the way to a gig one time, I had enough sort of time just to sort of allow my brain to wander, and ultimately sort of came up with a sort of disco cult inspired video that we wanted to do. I mean, because Tom had always gone on about the song sort of being this sort of dark disco thing, and he'd mentioned that he liked the idea of it being in a club. We sort of discussed the idea of a story in which you could turn a club into like some sort of gothic chamber in which two characters can become ensnared. And it sort of went from there, and then we brought it to our director that we sort of have collaborated in with previous projects and have known for years, Chris, and he suggested turning it even more into this sort of weird David Lynch-esque horror movie. So that's kind of where it ended up. And the final idea is actually really close to what I came up with in my sort of bored delirium in the back of a car.
Which is fantastic. And again, listeners need to go and check that out, because it is really eye-catching and it really draws you in. And I love the story that plays out throughout it. Obviously, you've put this art out into the world now. You've come together as Bitter Kisses. You've got this debut single, which obviously you're going to be very proud of, and a video as well, which you should definitely be proud of as well. And you've put it out there. And as you say, people's attention spans these days are quite short. Gone are sitting in front of TV watching MTV all day or whatever. Now it's just like picking up TikTok for 10 minutes and have a little look at some 15-second videos and all that kind of stuff. So how much attention do you pay to the reaction when you put a piece of art out like Prey? And how have you found the reaction to it since you put it out?
Well, we've got definitely paying some attention, like especially the release day. We're getting ping notifications like every 5 seconds. It's a nice feeling. You don't get that every day. But you definitely stressed, weirdly stressful. It's a nice kind of stress. Like, why am I stressed? But definitely. Especially like with the press, like with people such as yourselves who've like taken the song and like actually really enjoyed it. That's really helped us like feel like, oh, okay, we're doing something that's worth pursuing and continuing with the rest of the stuff we've got going on. And definitely with fans, people, they're enjoying it, because we did our release show the day after the track came out, and it was it sold out and just the best night we've played ever. And it's just a really positive time for the band right now, it feels like.
And people were able to learn the lyrics with like one day, so that was really
cool. That was nice.
That was nice.
Yeah, that must have felt nice, seeing them sing that back. And it's fantastic as well that you were able to play that show and get that instant live feedback, because again, at the risk of making myself sound ancient, and you guys sounded probably younger than you actually are as well, but of course, back in the day, during the war, as they would say, you had to wait for magazines to come out weekly or monthly to read the reviews. Of course, bands would have to wait for shows to see what that reaction is to new music. Of course, everything's instantaneous these days with social media, which does a lot of good for the industry and does a lot of bad as well. I tend to think, but yeah, obviously, like you say, one of the best indicators is people being able to sing a song back, especially after a day. So that must have been a special feeling for you.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And obviously, just to finish off around Prey, you got to go in and record it with Josh Gallop, who of course does some incredible work with the scene in Bristol. There's a lot of bands that he's helped along the way. So yeah, what was the experience like for you guys to go in there and record the song?
Oh gosh, it was so long ago now. Yeah, it was great. How long ago was that now?
It wasn't long after we formed, so probably in the summer of last year.
Yeah.
And it was just really relaxed. He fosters a very, very relaxed setting. It's nice. It helps that he's got a very, very comfy sofa.
Yeah,
Nice.
very safe. It's very easy to just sort of fall straight into that. Very relaxed.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and when you do obviously get to work with people like that or tour and support with other bands, I'm always keen, especially on the Discover New Music podcast, when talking to bands, just to get their sense of what you're looking to get from those experiences. Are you looking to pick up lessons and behaviors and this kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, and anything you can learn from someone who's doing what you want to do but better is always, invaluable. I think it's a mix of both getting inspiration for things that you can do better in your own art, as well as just the general networking, just making friends with people. A lot of the time, all the good things that have happened to us so far have been because we've been lucky enough to know the right people. And just continued gigging and continued exposure to, people within the industry, both local and national, has been the thing that's kind of helped us out the most as we've been going along. So the more we can do that, the happier we are. Plus, it's also just nice to meet new people.
Yeah, always is. But that's a fantastic attitude to have, for sure. And it might be touched on again a little bit later in our final segment that we have. But obviously, putting all of this together, you've obviously, you've got your origin story. You've come together as Bitter Kisses. You've got the debut single out now. Obviously, starting to play some live shows. What is the next logical step for the band? What are you looking at in terms of perhaps something a little meatier? Have you got thoughts yet of an EP or an album? Where are you looking to take the project?
Let's not give too much away.
No.
Got a lot of recording set up for the next couple of months, really. It's going to be a busy couple of months for us behind the scenes, that's for sure. And I'm sure we'll be posting as much as is necessary online. That would be way.
People shouldn't be left waiting for too long.
Yes.
No. But we did sort of release Prey and then realized with horror that we don't actually have anything else recorded, really. So we're just like, yeah. So we're just sort of really going to cram in a bunch of stuff, and then we'll figure out a plan. There's no real plans for like an EP or anything yet, but there will definitely be plenty of content that will be spewing out all over social media.
Excellent. And that's fantastic to hear, for sure. And listeners, hopefully, if you've enjoyed Prey, you're going to want to keep up to date with the band. So this is the portion of the podcast where I share, we've touched on social media already. That's how everyone stays in touch and up to date with what's going on these days. You guys have done a fantastic job in keeping my life easy, because I like to read out the handles for the band. Of course, the links will be in the bio anyway, but I like to read them out, and you've made them the same across all social media, so I only got to read the one out, which is always fantastic. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter, all Bitter Kisses UK. So obviously, listeners, that's where you want to go and follow the band to keep up to date with obviously this new music that's going to come out. And also, as we divert our attention now to the live live side of the industry. Obviously, any shows coming up from the band? So, Bitter Kisses, you've got some shows coming up, I know, in Reading, Bristol, and Glastonbury. Perhaps, obviously, I did notice with Reading and Glastonbury there, perhaps just trying to tempt a bit of fate with some bookings at festivals, perhaps.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, obviously, listeners, if you can pop along to a show, that would be absolutely fantastic. So, what is a Bitter Kisses show like? How would you describe yourselves as a live band?
Sweaty.
I was going to say that, but I was a bit curious, but yes.
Yeah.
I know. Energetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
That's
too.
Volatile.
Chaotic energy. Like we're a party band at the end of the day. We play quite moody music, but at the end of the day, like, we're mostly there just to have a party.
We don't
Jump
sit
around.
still at all.
No.
Ever. It's
Exhausted in the best way.
Yeah. I'll often happily sacrifice, my musician ability in favor of just moving a lot. So that's
Yeah.
more.
Gym man.
It's really sad for me being sat behind the kit and watching them all like jump around, and I'm like, I do so much.
Yeah,
but
but your
still,
expression said it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're having the best.
my drum face is top notch.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think if you want like a good visual representation of what our shows look like, if you look through our social media like Instagram, you will often find a photo of Tom about 2 foot off the ground.
Yeah, if you just see me touch the floor, then let me know and I'll get it taken off the internet.
Fantastic. No, I absolutely love that. And yeah, I mean, obviously we all love a nice arena show now and then, but of course getting into and seeing new bands in intimate grassroots venues for me is what's this all about. So I mean, yeah, getting sweaty, energetic, that's what we absolutely love. That's why we love rock music. And obviously, just the live side of the industry for me is where it's at, really. Obviously, yeah, it's great to put out some new music, but we just want to play shows, and what shows don't we, really? Which brings me on to set list science, which is the kind of final big portion of the podcast, which as I say, you've been out there, you've been learning lessons, perhaps. Obviously, you've all got former experiences in other bands. And this is where, it's always more interesting. Sometimes I'm interviewing, just one member of a band. Sometimes it's all the members of the band. It's not this portion more interesting with all of you here, because I'll be looking for like looks between you, because this is sometimes where arguments have formed in the past, perhaps. So setlist science, I'm a massive setlist geek. I love to see bands that put a bit of effort into their set list, for example, and I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? So the questions we ask, are how much importance do you place into the structure of a set list, and have you got any rules that you tend to follow?
Pretty crucial.
My main rule is there's one particular song that I honestly wind myself in every time we play it.
Yeah.
That needs to be near the end, or
Yeah.
else I'm not doing it.
But we have done it before.
But it was only a 20-minute set, so
Yes,
it was
yeah.
a little bit more allowable. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely put a lot of thought into the
Running
structure of the set
Mm.
list. Like, kind of starting it lively, and then you have a slight dip in the middle to like give people time to get their breath back, and then get them lively again. But not going up and down too much, else people lose momentum. So the thing we go for.
We always kind of want like songs to start and end neatly when they're lined up next to each other. So we'll often choose songs that say end on like a quieter section, will flow into a song that starts on a quieter section. And then we sort of use songs to bring up the level of energy again. Like if we know that one song starts quietly and by the end it's gone mental, we then put that in between a quieter song and a more mental song, so that can be our sort of bridge between them.
Yeah.
So
If we can
Yeah.
play songs together, then we do it. We try to do it, because I think silence in between songs, we just try to get as little as that as possible.
Yeah.
as well.
It means that there's more time for Josh to talk, and that's not a good thing.
No.
it's not. I'll have like one or two funny phrases, but then I start buffering, and when that happens, I just start swearing.
It's not a film in the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, it can come across forced sometimes. Obviously, the talk between songs when you have got to fill a gap if you're tuning or changing over an instrument and all this kind of stuff. Some people are very, very good at it, and others not so much. But obviously, you're the go-to person, then Josh, for that, are you?
I am, yeah. Like Tom and Gemma look really, really moody when they're singing, performing, but they're both too friendly. Bless them. They instantly go into this lovely way of speaking. It kind of breaks the magic.
Breaks the mood.
Yeah. Whereas I'm just always moody, so they can leave me just to continue being
himself.
I don't know if I'm allowed to use naughty words.
You can.
Oh yeah, I'm just a bastard.
But you're our bastard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That is. So as obviously you progress now, and you're going to have more and more songs to put out there. Are you do you look at when you're playing the shows? And obviously you said with Pray, and you played the album release show, and you're ecstatic to see people were singing back. Are you paying attention to how the set lists are working, and would you perhaps notice if something isn't working in a certain place? Would you look to adapt over time? Because obviously a lot of bands tend to just play the same songs every single night in the same order for years and years, even when they've released new music. Not a lot changes, which is what puts me off. I like the people that like to mix it up. So I mean, are you constantly looking to evolve it?
Yeah, I feel we get quite bored if we do it in the same way anyway, so it's good for us to change it up just for like our own stamina as well, I suppose.
Yeah. And if there's like a new song that definitely works well as like the introductory song for a set, then that's definitely, we're going to try that out.
Yeah.
And swap things around.
And if we've played a few shows and like a song doesn't seem to be like gelling with the crowd or like with us that much, but because like sometimes they tend to go hand in hand. The crowd tend to enjoy the ones that you seem to enjoy. It's like then we kind of like go, okay, we step back and we have a look at where things need to be essentially.
Yeah. Fantastic. And are you obviously just to finish it off, are you out there as well, looking at what other bands are doing, and trying to steal almost from what they're doing, and is there any examples of that you perhaps have got?
Oh, you're asking us to be very incriminating now.
Well, I know. I mean, with a few of us saw 21 Pilots last year, and then just amazing sort of shows and the way it flowed, and it was just like a show that one of the first shows I've seen that I said that was a perfect show. And that sort of inspired like, oh, what can we do to make the sets have that flow and have that everything's chosen with in a bold and sort of specific way. But then there's definitely bands more locally that inspire as well, right?
Well, especially bands that are really sort of energetic, because we're obviously quite energetic anyway. It's nice to sort of draw from other people's energy. Like, for instance, Mother Vulture. They are the most insanely energetic band I have ever met. They're constantly like on the floor, dripping with sweat, never like not moving. And it kind of inspires us quite a lot as well, just to see other bands sort of doing what we want to do as well.
I don't want to move that much.
I don't
have the cardio.
They don't have any sense of self-preservation. Like, it's kind of beautiful. It's like we're just about to. We'll stop before we go over the cliff, I think.
Sure. He who once dislocated his knee on stage. Yeah.
Well, no, I was off stage, and it was the crowd that did that to me.
Oh, right. There's a story there, I'm sure.
I had the last bit of the set sitting down, but it was like a really chill bit. So it was, everyone just thought I was like, oh, it's a really last kumbaya sort of moment, but I was just there like, oh,
I'm insane.
Yeah.
I can't stand up.
Well, that was your Dave Grohl moment, wasn't it? After he jumped off the stage, fantastic. Well, yeah, obviously, I can clearly see that you passed the test when it comes to set list science, because clearly you putting the thought into it, and you're saying everything that I want to hear. Because again, as a music fan, which we all are, we all go to shows, and I say there's some bands out there that you see year after year, and you think, come on, just give me something a little bit different. Otherwise, I'm not going to keep coming and seeing you. And like you said, surely those bands are going to get bored at some point of playing the same sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic that you're perhaps not taking the is it Mother Vulture approach of utter chaos, because obviously Scarlett, you mentioned about the songs, you need that one song to be later on because you're going to wind yourself playing it. Obviously, there's a kind of duty of care to yourselves in building a set list, but there's also, of course, the main focus is always going to be on what can we provide this audience, and it's balancing the two, which is where the science part comes from. It is an art to build one, and of course, as regular listeners to podcasts will know, I'm a massive geek when it comes to that. So no, absolutely fantastic to hear, and it's been a real pleasure talking with you guys about obviously Pray, which again listeners need to check out and have a listen to, and hopefully check out the video as well. You got the live shows coming up in Reading, Bristol and Glastonbury. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of more opportunities for fans to check out your set list science in practice in the future.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So the last question on all the podcasts is me chucking the ball to you guys, and maybe putting you under pressure because you probably haven't thought of it, but what would be your last message for the listeners today?
Oh,
So there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Got to be good, hasn't it?
Why did you warn us?
Josh, you're allowed to talk. Isn't allowed to talk.
my! It's going to be my closing message. Apparently, because I'm allowed to say naughty words on a podcast. Go and listen to our song and follow us, or go fuck yourself.
Yeah, in like 50 plus podcasts, first time I've had that one, but you got to be innovative and be new, so I like it. Fantastic.
No.
Oh, that's definitely staying in. Oh no, absolutely fantastic. Obviously, thanks for coming on the podcast, guys.
Thank you for allowing us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Bitter Kisses. Do make sure you check out their single Pray over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify. And of course, follow the band on social media to stay up to date with everything coming from them. You can also follow Full Pelt on social media. We are on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Discover New Music podcast.